Business Profiles, the show where we actually talk to business owners just like ourselves, find a little bit of their background, where they've come from, where they're going, and what are some of their pieces of advice for business owners everywhere to take them from where we are now to where we want to go. This week's show, Mr. John Broons, the family business guy. Well, welcome to the show, John. Great to have you here. John, one of the questions I think that comes up a lot is, what's it like being a family business advisor? Can you describe that to us?
Being a family business advisor is an interesting job. I get to share with individuals about their families and their lives, where they're going, where they want to go. I'm able to share with the family leaders where they also are and where they think they can go. We get to talk about the future. We get to talk about things that are present. Well, I go looking for what they don't know, and hopefully work with them to open their eyes and see opportunities for them moving forward.
So, John, what was your first job?
My first full-time job, I left school at 17 and went straight to work in the family business. What did I do? I swept floors, I cut wood, and within a short time I became apprenticed to a carpenter who was working in one of our family businesses divisions, the building company. So for a year or two I was working on building sites, chopping wood, cleaning up, measuring, learning about the building trade. My first paycheck, what did I buy with my first? I think I probably bought a record. I was interested in music in those days, I still am, but the rock and roll of the late 60s, early 70s was interesting, and I think I bought myself something like a Deep Purple.
So John, you've come a long way, but what are some of the new skills that you've acquired that you think have really helped you?
New skills I've learned along the way. Finance was one, working with an ex-public company accountant who worked in our family business, spent a fair bit of time educating me with boardroom etiquette and governance, understanding numbers, budgets, projections, and the way that numbers reflect on the balance sheets and the profit and loss, how everything is combined. Logistics was another thing that I spent time with, knowing the difficulties of remote operations as well as geographical locations when you're working from multiple sites. Larger businesses will be working in different areas, so they can have different cultures. So there was quite a bit of learning about that. I think as well, probably in the manufacturing side of things, machinery, the capacities, different shifts, people, and probably the thing that I glean out of most of this is it all relates back to people. So dealing with families who are in business, growing up in a family business, having education about family business, pulls all this people stuff together.
Well, in amongst running your own business, going from family business to running your own businesses, John, obviously people tell business owners they should have hobbies or something outside of the business to keep them busy. Do you have hobbies yourself?
I do have hobbies. The hobbies that I really love, aviation, flying small aeroplanes. I just get a real buzz from it. I've wanted to fly since I was 5. It took me a long time to get my pilot's license. My mother was dead set against me flying, so we had lots of conversations for many, many years. But I finally got my license, and very satisfying. So another thing that I do enjoy is fine wine, or wine, tasting wine, drinking wine, socialising with wine. So in one time in my life I was even a partner in a winery, and I've even sold wine from a wholesale point of view, and the wine thing is something that I've enjoyed for a good 40 plus years. So,
what do you find by having hobbies, something that's distinctly different like flying and wine, do you think that helps you in your business by having that mental break?
Definitely. You've got to have something to think of that takes your mind off your day-to-day work. Stress builds up too quickly, thinking of options and opportunities or possibilities or the negatives. And when you're flying a light plane, I can tell you, you have to think 3 or 4 times faster than driving a car on a highway at 100 kilometres an hour. And when you're planning going up or even coming down, then you really have to be very focused. So the aviation side of things is really great. The wine side of things is much more social, so it really opens doors to places and people.
So John, a lot of people that want to go into business for themselves are wondering what it will do for them. You being in business for yourself, what does it give you? What does it mean to you being in business for yourself?
Being in business for myself is a really interesting, I'd say it's a job. I enjoy it because I have freedom to make my own decisions, live through my own mistakes, learn through my mistakes. Hopefully I don't have to live through those mistakes again and relearn the issue. But there's the freedom to it. There is a strength of character that you get when you have to rely on yourself wholly and solely. And at times, there are times where I do think of maybe it would be good to have partners around, but I think that would also bring with it other challenges. Being an independent in the field that I'm in, which is family business advising, means that I can come in without other people's pressures, other people's needs and desires. So I can be totally objective from my perspective and try and take away my own ideas, and when I'm working with a family, specifically work with their ideas. And that freedom, that focus, that lack of outside influence, I think makes a very big difference to my clients. They feel that they can trust me, and I'm very proud of the fact that I consider myself to be a highly trusted advisor.
So John, we see a lot of people manage their careers and manage themselves and set strategic plans to get into their own business. What was it like for you? Was there a very specific plan? Did you foresee all this and work towards the goal?
I suppose from a very young age I knew I was going to go into the family business. That was a very strong belief, and it was unequivocal. So I knew when I finished school or whatever happened through that education phase that I would be in the business. Losing my grandfather and my father and difficult times, I think pressure on me forced me into making a decision to buy the family business off the family, which set me on a totally new path. It was never thought of before, but this was me probably working out that I had to do things for me as an individual. So it was a growth thing, a personal growth thing. Subsequently, making a decision to sell that business and move on was a big decision, but I knew that I had to move. And then I was sort of semi-retired, not knowing where the world was going and what to do, but my connections with business took me into selling olive trees to China, having a property maintenance business, and you know, going through the difficulties, and I've had some difficulties being in business, financial difficulties mostly, that you come out the other end. But all through those times I've been learning, and in the probably around 97 when I sold my business, which was my business in those days, that was still thought of as my family's business, I continued to learn about family business. So my interest was helping other families. So I've been following this path since the early 90s and educating myself as much as I could over the years, listening to consultants that came from overseas and then studying overseas or overseas study and then doing some study overseas. So my association grew with the Family Firm Institute, and I was early on I became involved with Family Business Australia and been on the board. So it's always been about families in business and helping others.
So John, a lot of business owners will look back in their careers and can name one or two spots where they go, well, I got a break there and I got a break there. Can you look back over your career and go, this was actually my first break, this is what I really consider was the turning point for me?
Interesting thing about my first break, I think for me, my learning, the way I learn, the way I listen, goes back to very early days for me, leaving school. So my education was an opportunity to go to university, was there if I so wanted, but I was never interested in that. So the break came when I left school and went straight to work in the family business.
So John, a lot of people in businesses, they either have had mentors or still have mentors. Has this played a part in your career?
Definitely, having mentors makes a big difference. Having people that you can trust, that you can ask questions of, that will help you, just not necessarily giving you direction, but making you think about the options. So I've had a number through the years, and they've been wonderful people. My father was a great mentor in teaching me a couple of things about family. My first boss within a family business structure he taught me work ethic, I'll put it that way. And he was very strong, an Irish background, I think. Irish, could have been Scottish, I'm not sure, but very strong work ethic. And along the way, some of the things I've done where I've had other mentors, in some cases they're paid. So I do this thing called TEC here in Australia, the Executive Connection. So I paid for a mentor, but had a group of advisors that were best friends that knew nothing about me, but would share their experiences, and that was a valuable time. And even today, I still have people that I talk to that I can trust that will help me make my choices. Mentors tend to pop up for me, and they become obvious people that I would talk to in answering the questions that rise up for me. Looking for a mentor is really about how much you trust them, how much you trust their advice, what you hear and see from them. And it's a building of a relationship. It's not something that can happen necessarily immediately. It may take 2 or 3 meetings. So long as you're on the same page and that person can actually get a picture that actually listens to what it is you have to say, and they can give you feedback that you feel has been value to you. Mind you, in most cases, mentors aren't paid, so the value, you have to discriminate between good or bad, but then it comes back to your own values.
Do you feel there's a burden running and owning your own business?
There is a burden in running your own business. The fact that you enter into this agreement with yourself to do something new and different and package it up in such a way that you're dealing with other people, there are rules and there's responsibilities. There's the law in which, or there's the law that governs us. There are governments that we work with. So you have to, it's incumbent on you to, and you have to fulfill documentation, rules and requirements, pay tax, and that's burdensome, to be honest. And knowing that you have other responsibilities other than just making yourself, being able to pay your way and do what you're good at.
So I've got to ask you, John, you've run your own family business, you've been in business for yourself ever since you left school at 17 basically. Other business owners out there, someone looking to get into business or are in business themselves at the moment, what piece or pieces of advice would you share with them?
I think communication is key, because everything we do is in relationships and is around relationships and dealing with others. So I suppose one little thing is, if you're with other people, one person or a group of 5, listen intently and be the last one to speak. Because if they give you their thoughts after you've given them yours, then you're almost putting yourself over them. If you're the last to speak, you can have heard everything and then make a considered opinion or share your own perspective.
John, it's been great having you in the studio once again, and it's been really interesting having that personal one-on-one, discovering John Broons and who you are and what you're about. So thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks very much for having me.